This is my version of the X-Sled, a more patriotic theme, but it didn't come without some serious frustrations. I'm Rick, and this
Shut the heck up, you stinking roosters. Down up on your sanity.
This is the shack. Hello and welcome. If you spend any time on YouTube or if you've checked out cross cut sleds or just want to build one, chances are you may have run across a gentleman who made a cross cut sled called the X-Sled for his Laguna table saw. I kind of like the design, a little bit different, and main thing out of that, I liked all the slots he put in for like grab areas, little handles to grab onto. Makes it real convenient. I went a little extra, put more in mine, and I really like them. They're very beneficial. But there was a flaw with that design that I came across because I made a couple of mistakes. So through my frustration, hopefully you can have a much smoother time getting your sled together if you choose to build something like this, and much less time spent squaring it up. Now on his, he just squared it up to the blade and called it fine. Most of us want a little more precision, so he should have done like a 4-cut thing, 4 cuts, whatever. You can find those videos out there to get the perfect square. I went that route and I ended up spending almost 7 hours because I had extreme frustration because I made a couple of basic mistakes. So hopefully you won't do that. I'm going to talk about the flaw and the problems I had at first, then some of the issues I ran into making this, some things I would change, and after that is simply just me time-lapse music, going through the complete build from start to finish. Don't have to watch it, strictly entertainment, but it might be fun. With that, let's just dive into it. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad crosscut sled. I'm just saying that there's a flaw in the design that I had issues with. That's why I'm calling it a flaw, because I see a potential problem if other people try to duplicate this, if they really want to get a true square crosscut sled. The problem is the bar. And why I say that is, traditionally speaking, when we make a crosscut sled, you will have a piece of wood going across here. So when you do your cut, it still keeps this side of the cut in line with this side of the cut, and there's no chance of this moving. That's the issue I had. I cut it down so far, got my square, set it on there, lined up my fence as close as I could get it with that, put my screws in the middle and on either end, then put my wood on here to do a few cuts to check the squareness. That's when I ran into an issue, because I had a screw in the middle about here, one on this end, one on this end. This side, because it had 2 screws in it, held it in line with the fence. This side, because basically it was only held in with 1 screw here, no screws here, this actually moved because there wasn't nothing at this end holding it, a screw here, screw here, screw here, screw here, something, and keeping it in line with this one. This actually shifted. Now you think, well, there's screws here, why didn't it hold it? Because there is a little bit of flexibility in this. If you took this fence off, I can move this. And it shifted about 1/8 of an inch on me. And it took a few cuts to figure out why this thing was not staying square. Every time I would do my 4 cuts, I was off, like, okay, so I got to move it forward, unloosen the screws underneath, bumped it up a little bit, retightened it. This shifted, not knowing it shifted, did 4 cuts and it was off. And I spent an hour before I realized this thing kept shifting on me. That's why I'm saying this was a flaw, and it gave me a frustration fest for the rest of the day. Total, from beginning to end, I spent about 7 hours. It took me an hour to figure this out, and I made a couple of mistakes, which I will talk about in a moment, that really hindered my progress and why it took so stinking long. That's the issue I see. My solution is this. Normally I would have got my router and did about an inch or so dado underneath where my screws are going to go. Drill holes down and oblong them a little bit so you can have a little bit of play. Use a flat screw, not a flush screw, because a flush screw, once you drill it in, it will like make a cone shape as it goes flush. The problem was I didn't use a flat screw, so every time I tried to adjust, that is going to normally want to recenter itself. So no matter where I was moving it to, it would want to automatically go and recenter itself in the original spot because it's already got the cone shape there. So it just drifted to that original setting. Frustrating as all hell, and I just wasn't in a good mood. A lot of things going on personally. So I wasn't thinking straight, and it just magnified from that point on, and that's why it took me 7 hours. What I should have done was get my router, do me a little dado, but I would have done 2 on this side, 1 on this side, that down there in this corner, that's my pivot. So from that point on, everything would go this way, move in or out, depending on how I had to adjust it to the blade. So after about an hour and then finally figuring out this side was moving, I oblonged the hose a little more, put a hole here, oblonged it, and oblonged this a little bit more. So my solution was to do this. I still didn't slot out these with a router, and I just had them oblonged. I just figured a couple of tries. I kept telling myself just one more time, and I should get it. Wrong, big mistake on my part. I have a 3-inch piece of angle iron. So I use the angle iron to start adjusting this. On my angle iron, I would put a piece of tape like this, 2 pieces of tape on top of each other. That actually ended up, on this end right here, that tape acted as a shim. Put the angle iron here, clamped, 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 clamped. I'll put 4 clamps up here. Once those were clamped, I'd clamp it to the bed here so it wouldn't move anywhere here. Once that was clamped and the angle iron clamped to the sled, I took out the 3 screws here, 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 loosened the one at the other end. That was my pivot point, just needed it loose so it could move. Moved it away from the angle iron, peeled off those 2 pieces of tape, that was my shim, and realigned it against the angle iron. So it moved up just the thickness of those 2 pieces of tape. Reclamped everything here and here and here, got my square, made sure my little dado, my 20,000 steep dado, just enough actually to take away the melamine, was in line down here because I had a dado thing here for my tape measure, and that's why I haven't put it on permanent because I still may remake this. Made sure everything was lined up, went to the back, put my square against the back, make sure it was flush back there, didn't rock. Then I would put a clamp on the fence and on the base back here. I'd clamp it down right here so it wouldn't move on me. Now that everything's re-clamped and this is clamped, then I'd reinsert the 3 screws, tighten them up, take all the clamps off, put my piece of wood on here, do my cuts, and check the squareness. When I got close, then I went from 2 pieces of tape as a shim to a single piece of tape. I got it down from 0.02325 down to 0.0, maybe 1310, somewhere around there, so maybe 0.010. That to me was close enough after spending 7 hours. That's why I say this is a flaw, because it makes it very difficult to adjust your fence here because you don't have anything keeping this stable. Plus, another thing I don't like about this, you see this, look at all the flexibility you have. It looks nice, it's kind of cool, industrial looking, but that piece of wood here gives it more rigidity, keeps this very in line with each other. There's no chance of shifting, making the adjustment of the fence 30 times simpler because it is held in place here. So I don't know if there's a way to run a piece of wood across, line this up, then you'd have to get like a track saw, cut off the end where you put your fence, temporarily screwed in your fence, cut about a 1/2 inch of that off there, then do this cut and stuff, but then your runners and everything would be in the way. So I don't know. I'm just saying that was a difficulty I had. Something to think about if you want to make a sled like this one. But that's the flaw I see in this design. I like it. I put more grab handles, grab spots, whatever you want to call these, on mine. And I'm telling you what, every time I take it on and off the table saw, I utilize these. These, I think, are a benefit. They are a definite benefit in any style sled you make. Put some of these in there. They are phenomenal. They definitely help. So now I'm just going to go over some of the issues I ran into doing this. Something that may help you if you're going to build this, some things to think about. And some of my measurements, when I got everything set on here, I think if I was to redo it, I would reposition some of this stuff. So now we're going to dive into these issues. First thing I ran into was my T-tracks. Now he didn't have T-tracks on his. I wanted more versatility on mine, and mainly the reason I wanted T-tracks so I could put some hold downs on. If I want to hold a piece of material down, I can clamp it there. It's going to hold it. Now my hand's going to be here or here as I push the material through the cut. Not one here holding material, one down here pushing it through the cut. I'm just saying there is a chance for me to slip, something happens, I may be leaning, I lose balance or something, and now my hand's here wanting to grab something, and there's always the blade here. So I wanted my hands up here completely free of any chance of getting harmed by the blade. So I want up here, so if I trip something, I got this to hold on to basically. This is my balance point, this is my safety point. That's why I wanted T-tracks in mind. Putting in the T-tracks was a minor issue. I was looking for number 8 3/8 screws, couldn't find any. The only thing they had without having to wait to order some was a number 8 1/2 inch. I put the 1/2 inch in. This is melamine, not my first choice. The only reason I use this because the piece of plywood I had, no matter what I did, if you watch the video, me assembling it, you'll see it wouldn't lay flat. Put a piece of wood on here thinking, well, if I got to use the wood, I'll use it. Wouldn't keep it flat, still had a little teeter-totter in it. Flipped it around and put the wood on thinking that would take the bow out. Still had a little issue, wasn't setting flat. It was just a bad sheet of plywood. I wasted my time and money going to the big box store because I didn't want to drive an hour, 10 minutes to my Ganal lumber to buy a good sheet of cabinet grade plywood. So just don't blow up comments. That's why I'm using melamine. Not my first choice to happen. So because of melamine, you put screw in, you have a greater chance of a little dimple on the backside because the screw doesn't go all the way through, but it's pushing pressure out just enough where that's going to dimple. So what I had to do was I drilled a pilot hole through every single one of these to relieve that pressure, put the screw in, felt once I got them in, it's like, dang it, they're still sticking out just so much, but still I don't want to put it on my table saw and scratch it up. So I had to take every one of these out, flatten them, and then reinstall them. That was one issue. You definitely want 3/8, nothing longer. You should be fine. I had these already cut because I cut these and the slots for these all at the same time. Came in here, lined it up, set it down, and I noticed something. My measurements were off. This is my runner. Here is my T-track. Now this one is fine because they're not touching. They got about 3/4 to 1/2 inch distance between them. That's fine. Problem is, yeah, this is exactly where my slots are. Because I had pre-drilled my runners, so all I had to do is sit them in here, line them up, pull this back a little bit, make sure it was pretty squared, and then attach them. Because I didn't want them permanent. Normally I would have put a couple of drops of glue, set it down there, let it dry for a while, just so it wouldn't move, so I could take it out, flip it over, and drill the holes, countersink, and then put my screws in. I figured it'd be easier. I did have a little issue with that because they kind of shifted on me, but I worked it, as you see. There's just one spot right about there. It binds a little bit, then it's fine. So I just gotta sand the runner a little bit more on each side till I get that relief done. But it works. So I had to drill these and put screws in here. If I remake this, I will move these over 1.25 inches and I'll put them past my miter slot here and it should be fine. But the distance between these two are fine. The problem was this. The distance between these, there isn't. They're literally side by side, which is all right, but you may want to consider bring this over 1/2 inch. Originally I had this set where my T-slots were 5 inches on either side of my blade. that would have almost put them dead center on here, which would have been kind of cool. But my luck, I doubt if I would have been that lucky going through, I might have hit my table saw or something. So I decided to bring it in 4 inches and 4 inches. I may end up bringing this side over 1/2 inch just because I feel better about having a little gap between these two and not having them side by side. I'm not sure it makes any difference. It's just something I may do, but not necessary. But I will move the grab handle, my little slots here, over 1 1/4 inches so they're not directly over my runner here. The other thing I might change, this cutout on the sides, this is 12 1/4 inches here. What I'm thinking of doing is shortening this down to 8 inches, so it'd be 8 inches long, 3 inches deep, so it'd be 8 by 3 cutout. Instead of these being here, I would, after this notch comes out, when it comes to the end here, I will go 1 inch and do another 8 by 3 cutout. So I'll have 2 cutouts on both sides. These I will leave the grab handles on, but the second one I won't put any grab handles on. I'll move my row of 3 openings up a little bit to be in line with the center of the second cutout. So these may come up a little bit, 1 inch or 2, all the way across. They'll be even across this way. I think that would actually look pretty cool. I wasn't sure about adding 3 more down here, but it really benefits because I can grab anywhere down here instead of having to grab the fence all the time. I can grab one of these, move it, grab it to bring it over to the table saw or something. These actually became very helpful, very beneficial to have all these extra cutouts. And if I decide to go with a piece of wood here, make sure you give yourself a good inch opening at the end here, down here, past your T-track, so you have room to get your T-nut in and out. So I would leave that one kind of rounded from the router bit. This one I would chisel straight so it sets flush against these down here. Just have it rounded out there. Or you could probably come down a little bit further, but I decided I wanted a tape measure down here, so I have a 20/1000th of an inch deep dado running along here for this tape measure to be set in here. Once I decide if I'm keeping this or not, I can peel the tape off and mount it right there, and it's dead flush. It's perfect. You want it just below the surface of your sled. And I think this makes it so much more beneficial just because I can set my material and it's going to ride right along here. But the problem was, remember, it shifted on me. So this isn't dead in line with my blade anymore, because when I shifted, I got a little chip here. It tweaked, and when I turned it on, it bing, and it took a little chip out here. I'm like, that's why I'm like, what the hell is this? That's how I actually figured out it was moving on me, because it shouldn't have any way to bind on my blade to do that. Then I noticed it had shifted. So that's what I'm saying. That's the flaw I see, because there's no way to keep these two in line secure as you adjust your fence, because you have nothing here. I did think of possibly putting another piece of iron here and having a T, 3-inch nipple and a T here, 3-inch nipple and a T here. That way you'd have 2 points to hold this, which might be a good deal, but you would have to redo the cutout. And I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm thinking I may redo this. So those are a few of the things that I would change if I was to redo this. So if you watch this point, I have these little plans I drew up. I will make them available, and I don't know how yet. I haven't figured out how to do it. I've been trying to figure out. I just don't understand how to do it. I'm not tech savvy. I'm a woodworker, not a techno geek. I struggle greatly just getting these videos out because it's very hard for me to do. I'm not that person. I will redo the design with the new measurements, and I may end up doing the 2 on here, and I may just make that straight, but it's all up to you. That's what I'm saying. This is my interpretation. I added a few things. I changed it up a little bit for me, kind of a basic general copy of his design, but with my twist on it. And I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it this way yet. If I can figure out how to upload them onto YouTube so you can have a downloadable link. If not, I will have my email there. Just email me and I will email you the PDF of this. Plus, right here is the template I used for these, because when I cut out the original, this is what I made with it. That was my template to cut these out. Actually, yeah, that way. Now I won't go into that, but that's how I end up doing it because that's all I had around. So that's something you may want to consider, you want to think about. At least you can have some measurements and something to go off of, at least a basis, and then change it up to meet your needs. So that is it. Now you just kick back if you want, click away, go somewhere else, or just watch the build from beginning to end, and that is it. And there you have it. The flaw I see in this, some of the things that I would change, the things that I ran into, so my measurements and stuff, just overall everything, and then the complete build from beginning to end. And here it sets. So that's going to be it with this video. Not much else. It is what it is. So thank you so much for watching. Be blessed. Take back your check. Build it for your sanity. Yeah. Enough is enough. We will see you next video.